I can talk about skiing for days. The biggest misconception is that you have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to go, and it's not true. It's generally considered a very expensive sport, but there are ways around that.
So it is possible to go on a ski trip without breaking the bank.
If you're not an expert skier, there's no reason that you need to be spending hundreds of dollars a day on a lift ticket. You have to do your research at Alta Ski Resort. You can go to Gold Miner's Daughter and get a slice of pizza, and you can get a PBR for $4. A meal for less than $10 per person is kind of amazing.
We've seen some long lines that have gone viral. So how do you avoid the big crowds?
Go on a Tuesday, or midweek skiing is great because there are fewer people there.
Can you explain how ski resort pricing actually works?
So most ski resorts use dynamic pricing, and that means that if you're trying to ski during President's Day weekend, which is widely considered the most popular time to ski, then you're going to be paying top dollar for day lift tickets.
What's the sweet spot for getting deals?
There are always deals, and if you go to any ski resort website and you're booking with them directly instead of doing an online booking third party, they will always have.
It's early morning, and you're running on caffeine and pure adrenaline. From the chairlift, you've got a bird's eye view of the entire mountain. Snowflakes float like confetti over a maze of mountain trails and tall, frosted pines. For travel journalist and lifelong skier Melissa McGibbon, this scene has become a lifestyle. Raised just minutes from Alta Ski Area in Utah, her daily rhythm includes early mornings to catch that coveted first chair, lunch breaks on mountaintops, and fresh powder ripe for the taking. I'm Angie Orth, here with Melissa to help you figure out how to make your ski dreams come true without shredding your budget. From breaking down dynamic pricing and the magic of multi-resort passes, to opting for smaller independent mountains with beginner-friendly terrain and even bigger savings, she'll map a route that turns flexibility into your superpower. So zip up, breathe in the alpine air, and let's hit the slopes, shall we?
Melissa, thank you for coming on the show.
Of course, I'm so excited to be here.
You've been covering ski destinations for a long time.
A long time, yep. And I can talk about skiing for days. So you're talking with the right person.
What got you started in skiing? Is it where you grew up?
Right, yeah. I'm actually from Salt Lake City, Utah. And so I grew up really close to so many of world-class ski resorts. And my home ski resort is Alta, Utah. So I'm 20 minutes door to chairlift there. I ski almost every day. And yeah, most people who have parents that are skiers will start when they're pretty young.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about skiing on a budget? Because it can be a pretty expensive sport, right?
Yes, it's generally considered a very expensive sport to have. And it's everything from getting to the destination, lift tickets, ski gear, the rentals, ski school. Eating on the mountain is really expensive. Like, it's not a cheap thing to do. So but there are ways around that. So I think the biggest misconception is that you have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to go, and it's not true. I mean, if you're going to pick a place like Deer Valley or Vail, a day lift ticket at Vail is $329 currently, but you can also pick to go to a smaller, more independent ski resort. I know tickets for Brian Head in southern Utah, you can get them for as cheap as $33 a day if you're going at the right time. It's dynamic pricing, so you still have to do your research ahead of time. But I think there are many options. You can go to places in the East Coast or even in the Midwest that have cheaper lift tickets. So if you're not an expert skier, there's no reason that you need to be spending hundreds of dollars a day on a lift ticket because you're not going to be accessing that bigger terrain. You're going to stay on the bunny hill. So don't spend the money. And plus, it's nice to pour money into those smaller economies too.
So it is possible to go on a ski trip without breaking the bank, but you have to do your research.
You have to do your research, and it depends. Is it just you? Is it you and your family? You're going to make decisions based on what the group is like. Is it a bachelor party or is it a family of four? That's going to change your decision. If it's just you, you can sleep on a couch, you know?
So can you explain how ski resort pricing actually works? You mentioned there might be like surge pricing. How does it work?
Yeah, so most ski resorts, especially if they're an Icon or Epic resort, use dynamic pricing. A lot of the smaller resorts use that as well, but you can count on it from those bigger resorts. And that means that if you're trying to ski during President's Day weekend, which is widely considered the most popular time to ski, right behind that week between Christmas and New Year's Eve, then you're going to be paying top dollar for day lift tickets. So that's the most expensive time to go. And if you're willing to go later in the season, in early April, late March, or even early December, depending on if there's enough snow by then you'll pay a lot less for your lift tickets.
Icon and Epic, what are those?
So Icon and Epic are passes where you buy one ski pass that gets you access to many different resorts. So all of the resorts that they own, and they're adding new resorts all the time. So if you have an Icon Base Plus pass, you get something like 5 days at Alta and Snowbird, but you have unlimited days at Solitude. And then you can also go up to Jackson and ski on the same pass for no additional money.
Oh.
Or you can go to Whistler and use your Icon pass there. So that's a heck of a deal. And that makes it easier for people to travel around and to say like, oh, it looks like it's going to be stormy in Jackson next week. Let's go there. So it's one price for all of the ski resorts. And that does actually make a huge difference, but it did change the industry quite a bit. Prior to Icon and Epic coming on the scene and gobbling up all of the resorts, ski resorts are running at a really thin margin and there just wasn't a lot of profit involved. It's just labor costs, the operations of running all of the lifts, snowmaking, liability insurance, all that kind of stuff just adds up. So in a way, it kind of helped the industry out because a lot of ski resorts wouldn't have survived otherwise. But now it's owned by, just two major corporations.
So if you have that flexibility, that is a really good way to save money, but also just to get to see lots of places and ski in lots of mountains. What's the sweet spot for getting deals?
3 to 4 months in advance. And if you're going to buy season passes, they're actually on sale early every spring before that current season ends. So people buying their Icon season passes, which if you're doing the math, you'll figure out pretty quickly that if you're going to ski for 3 days, it's actually makes more sense to just buy a season pass than it is to buy day lift tickets, right?
If you know you like to ski, you would know where you want to ski maybe the next season. Do you move around?
Yeah, that is a great question. So what's happening, we're seeing in the industry now is that people are not planning that far in advance because they have the season pass. If you have an Icon or an Epic season pass, then you can say, where is it snowing? And what, if you can work from home or you have a flexible schedule, you can say, oh, like Jackson is getting hammered, let's go there next week. Or this storm is coming into Mammoth or Lake Tahoe or Utah or whatever. So that's where we get powder chasers that will follow where the storms are going to be. And sometimes we see it happen on the East Coast too. We get really jealous when Vermont is getting hit really hard.
So what are some top destinations where people might get a better deal?
Yeah, it just kind of depends on what you're looking for. You don't necessarily want to pay all that money to go to a resort that you're not going to be able to ski. People hear about these world-class ski resorts like Deer Valley or Chamonix or Aspen, Snowbird, Alta. And that's great, but you want to think about what does world-class mean? Because if you are not already a skier, then you're going to pay a lot of money to have those experiences that you can't really fully appreciate. So you want to pick a resort that has a higher percentage of beginner or intermediate terrain. If a resort says we have 60 to 70% advanced to expert terrain, you're probably not going to have a good time there as beginner. If you have little kids, maybe something like Smuggler's Notch in Vermont might be a better choice for that kind of pricing. I think there's still some independent resorts in Idaho that are worth checking out. So maybe you could mix it up with, maybe you do want to go to Sun Valley, but then you could also go to like a smaller resort like Tamarack in Idaho or something like that. So you're going to want to look for those independent resorts is like the best hack for lower pricing.
This is a AAA Travel Minute. I'm Kaylin Seigan, a AAA travel advisor. Imagine checking in for your flight and your boarding pass looks a little bit different, with 4 big ominous letters printed across it, SSSS. That stands for Secondary Security Screening Selection and signals that you've been chosen for additional screening by the TSA prior to flying. These checks come in various forms, including pat-downs, luggage inspections, and swabbing your hands, feet, and devices for explosives. This enhanced inspection can take place at an initial security checkpoint or at the boarding gate, lasting anywhere from 15 to 45 minutes. Fear not, It does not mean you are on any sort of watch list or must worry about having those letters on your boarding pass each time that you fly. The SSSS designation is only for your current flight and is assigned at random. It's just another reason you should always budget for extra time at the airport before taking off.
Well, let's talk about the lift lines because we've seen some long lines that have gone viral. So how do you avoid the big crowds?
The obvious answer is to go on a Tuesday or, midweek skiing is great because there are fewer people there. It's tough when it hasn't snowed in a while and people get powder panic. You're going to be competing with 10,000 other people to get to the same runs.
What's powder panic?
Powder panic is when it hasn't snowed in a while and then you get a big storm and all of a sudden there's new snow and everybody gets super excited and calls into work with what we call the powder flu. And then you are competing with everybody else for those same runs. And it gets cut up really fast because there's so many people on the same runs at the same time that after 2 or 3 runs, all the fresh snow is gone. So the best way to avoid the crowds, early season, late season, don't go during the major holidays. Try to go during the week if you can. And also try the afternoon because most people will go in the morning. So if you're willing to ski after 1 or 2, it's going to be easier to park. There just will be less frustration all around if you're willing to go during those times when everybody else is not there.
Sounds like flexibility is the key because it's unpredictable. You're waiting on weather.
Yeah.
You're waiting on holiday. I mean, there's many factors that go into it. So you kind of have to be flexible.
Yeah, flexibility is key.
So for somebody like me who's never been on a ski trip, maybe because they think it is too expensive of a sport to get started in, what's your top advice for those folks?
Just figuring out what is the right kind of skiing for you. What's the vibe that you want for which ski resort you're going to choose? Because you can have just as much fun at a smaller ski resort in the Midwest if you have never been on a ski trip. Try that out first and see if it's even something that you're into and want to do again before you commit to doing like a bigger ski resort trip in the West. And then you could pick to go to a resort like Snow King in Jackson, which is like right by town, versus going to Jackson Hole, which is a more advanced resort too. So there are a million ways to save. You're not going to want to buy ski gear and then travel with it because that's a whole other thing.
Okay.
So when you're renting gear, you can of course do it on the mountain wherever you're at, but it's probably going to be more affordable if you look at other ski rental shops that are in the area. It's great to ski in, ski out. That is incredibly convenient. But if you're in a place like Salt Lake City, for instance, you can stay downtown Salt Lake and still be, 30 minutes from 4 to 7 ski resorts. So consider staying just a little bit farther away. That'll save you money. You can get thrifted gear or secondhand ski gear, and you're still going to pay $15 for an on-mountain burger, but you can go a little bit farther away from the resort and get something that's less expensive. You can also go to the grocery store and make sandwiches. Most of us who ski every day are just eating power bars or whatever to make it through the day. We don't generally stop to eat as much. We'll have a snack, but there's just especially if it's snowing, we don't want to miss any of those runs.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You got to prioritize. If you're not getting snow all the time, you got to go when it's good.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not going to stop for a cheeseburger you could have anytime.
Yeah.
You'll just wait.
Just plan ahead. Eat before you ski.
Let's talk a little bit about Eastern Europe as a budget skiing hotspot. Have you been there, first of all?
I have been to, let's call it Central Europe.
Okay.
I've been to Slovakia and Hungary in that area. I know it has a burgeoning ski culture. Skiing in Kazakhstan and Georgia is getting really popular and it's probably more affordable. So you can go over there and still pay, probably less than $50 for a day lift ticket. That's a guess. I know in places like Japan, you can still get away with paying $50 for a lift ticket. And I have skied a bunch in Western Europe. So those lift tickets you can count on being between $50 and $80 as opposed to paying several hundred for a day lift ticket in the US.
So it's actually still kind of affordable in those traditional European ski countries.
Yes. Yeah. You'll pay much less for a lift ticket. And then you have to consider hotel costs and flights and all of that. But if you're doing an apples to apples comparison, you'll actually spend, for a 1-week ski vacation, you could spend $50,000 for a family of 4 at Deer Valley with rentals and food and transit and airfare and all of that. And you won't spend nearly as much if you're going to Austria or Switzerland. We were trying to do the math. I skied in the Jungfrau region in Switzerland in February, we went to Grindelwald, and you'll pay a little bit more for hotels, and like a beer is more expensive. But overall, you're still saving money because you're not spending all that on a day lift ticket.
And you get to go to Europe.
Right.
Which is always fun.
It's beautiful to ski in the Alps. It's great.
Well, let's talk about Japan. Is it similarly cost effective to go there, or is it expensive?
So it depends. You'll pay, again, less for a lift ticket, but then there are other factors. Like, are you going to take the bullet train in Japan? Because that's very expensive. What kind of hotel are you willing to stay at? Because it runs the range. Now, what's great about Hokkaido, which is known as like a world famous ski destination, is that they get so much snow, but the season is very short. So you really have to be skiing between late December and maybe mid-February. And after that, it's kind of over. So their peak time is much shorter. Bullet trains are really expensive. Food can be really cheap. Hotels can be really cheap, and lift tickets can be really cheap, but it just depends on how you're doing it and where you're going. Hokkaido is one of the few places where it snows actually more than it does at Alta. So if you're looking for the powder storms and all that snowfall, then that's where you want to go. However, beginner skiers are not going to want to ski powder because it's a next level thing. You're not going to care about that because it's going to be too hard to try to learn how to ski in powder.
No, so you don't even need that if you're me.
Probably not. Like start with like the happy Swiss skiing adventure, or go to Austria or something like that, and then just ski the on-piste groomed runs. You don't need to ski 15 inches of powder if you're just starting out.
See, this is very good to know. I don't have to have the world-class, best of the best experience that costs the most money if I don't know what I'm doing yet. I can really just kind of start out small and budget-friendly.
Well, yeah, think about it. If you go over to Chamonix in France, which is known as being a world-class ski destination, you do not want to be pizzaing.
And that's when your skis are pointing and you're
like in the shape of a pizza, right? And you're out of control and it's super steep and you look ridiculous, right? You don't want to be doing that all day. That's exhausting, and that's not the best way to spend your money or your time, frankly, right? You'll still have a great time going and shopping and dining and seeing the sights and being in the Alps and all of that, but just think about what world-class means and what kind of skiing you want to do.
What cultural differences should people expect when they go out of the U.S.?
This is a really funny topic. It's something that I've noticed a lot skiing over in Europe, is that the lift lines get really chaotic. So over in the U.S., we are very used to order and queuing, and we follow all the rules about like people not cutting in line, and we're very offended if that happens. Every time I've skied in Europe, I'm always blown away by the elbowing and the crunch lines at the lifts. So you should just be prepared for that. And they're just so used to it, they don't think of it. There's also people smoking everywhere, which is unusual in the US. And the general culture is to start maybe at like 10 or something, ski for a couple of hours, have lunch for a couple of hours, maybe take 1 or 2 more runs, and then they start après super early. So it's not an all-day ski as many runs as you can kind of culture in Europe, at least. One of my favorite things about skiing in Japan was how clean everything was, of course, no surprise there. And they had, little air pressure hoses to wash off your skis before you got back on the gondola, which I thought was so thoughtful. There's a lot of thought put into everything in Japan, which is so great. Everybody's very considerate and respectful. Read the room a little bit. For instance, like Swiss people think it's very strange if Americans just strike up a conversation with them on the chairlift. And Americans are always so friendly.
That's true. We like to talk to everybody.
Yes, it's very normal for us to be like, where are you from? Just pay attention to, when you get there, to what's happening and try to pick up on it.
And so the après-ski culture in Europe versus the US, what do you think is the biggest difference?
When you go to famous après spots like the Moosfurt in St. Anton in Austria, you understand why the après culture is so big there. It's just a big party, and people start really early, like at 1 or 2, and it lasts all day long, and sometimes all night long too. They'll après until 10 o'clock at night and then wake up and do the same thing all over again. Wow. And we have that in the US a little bit. Like we have the après scene, but it's just not as much of a wild party. In some places it can get that way, but it just depends on where you go. There's always the everybody meets at the bar at like 4 o'clock or whatever to have like a beer or 2 or 7. But it doesn't go all night, and it's not the like techno party music that it is in Europe.
My après would be a very long nap, like an ice bath, Do people not do that? Do people not recover and rest? I can't imagine just going out for a party and a nightlife and after skiing. That sounds crazy to me.
Yeah, it depends on what you want. I love the spa culture. And I love like the Nordic spas in particular. And I think the Scandinavians are really good about that. So there's certainly those options depending on where you go. I think it's so lovely to go skiing and then sit in a hot tub and you can have a beer in the hot tub. Or if you don't have a hot tub, you can still have like a cold beer and a hot shower, and that'll kind of do. But I agree with you. It's so nice to rest for a few.
I did 1 hour of snowboarding once and it took me like 3 days to recover. So yeah. I get it. Yeah. I'm the one who will be in the ice bath.
Not easy.
No. So everything you're saying about skiing, is this also relevant to snowboarding?
That is a great question. And the answer is mostly. But there are still 3 resorts in the US that do not allow snowboarders. Alta Ski Area is one of them. And the other is Deer Valley in Utah. And then Mad River Glen in Vermont, which actually is independently owned. So they're going to be great for budget-friendly skiers too. So snowboarders can't access that terrain on the lifts. But generally speaking, skiers and snowboarders are all going to get the same deal at every other resort in the US.
Some ski towns offer free public transportation. Do you know of any destinations that do this really well?
Yeah, a lot of them do it really well. Sun Valley, Park City, Aspen, Stowe, they all have fare-free public transportation. So they're going to make it super easy for you to get around because it works better for them too. They don't have to come up with as much parking. And a lot of them will actually try to deter you from parking because it's less cars are better for everybody in those situations. So I think it's a really smart move for more destinations to be working toward that. Like Banff is another place that offers fare-free public transportation. And it's so easy, especially if you have your skis, to just hop on the bus and then get dropped off right at a ski resort. And then you don't have to worry about trying to find a parking space, paying for parking, all of that.
And I suppose if you're staying a little bit like in a nearby town versus on the mountain, it makes sense to take that public transportation. You don't even have to worry about it. But when do you think it's worth paying to stay closer? Like when is it worth that premium price?
If you have the money and you want less fuss, that's a great time to indulge and spend the money for a ski and ski out. If you want to go stay at, the Fairmont in Whistler, that's ski and ski out. And that's a nice experience, especially I would think if you have kids. I don't. But if you're trying to make things easier for yourself, then just not hauling gear around is always better. And there's usually at fancy hotels, they have ski valets that will take care of your gear as soon as you're done skiing.
That sounds nice.
I mean, they have that almost everywhere. They have it in Jackson. They have it at Deer Valley. Like you just don't want to have to deal with your, carrying your skis around once you're done for the day. So that's nice.
I guess you just have to choose which conveniences are worth it to you and then where you want to save, like with any trip. Let's talk about the food aspect of it, because like you said, you can eat on the mountain and spend a good bit of money, or you can bring your own. What other tips do you have for saving money on food?
Well, yeah, I guess you can always bring food. I know at Alta Ski Resort, I'm obviously biased, so I'm going to keep talking about my home ski resort, but you can go to Gold Miner's Daughter and get a slice of pizza, cheese pizza for $4, and it's good. And you can get a PBR for $4, which, a meal for less than $10 per person is kind of amazing. Yeah. So there are always those options. And again, that's because it's an independent ski resort. But you'll just make your choices. What I always try to think about is it might sound nice to go have a super fancy meal on the mountain, but it's not your last meal. So just spend your money going to a farther away restaurant later on. Most ski resorts will also have a grab and go option or just something that you can take quickly.
What would you say is a good range for somebody to go skiing for a weekend at a mid-level resort?
Yeah, you could probably do it for less than $1,000 per person.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
It depends on where you go.
Do you know of any hotels that have maybe beginner packages? Come try out skiing and see what you think.
There are always those deals. And if you go to any ski resort website and you're booking with them directly instead of doing an online booking third party, they will always have better deals than what you're going to find through those mass booking sites. And I think sometimes there's competing too. So if you want to go skiing in Lake Tahoe, then you might save money by doing a package deal with your flights and hotels and rentals and all of that. And they're going to try to make it as easy for you as possible to do a one-stop shop booking to get you set up with everything. So there's always package deals to be had if you go directly to the ski resort website.
Where's your favorite place that you've ever skied?
Well, I was lucky enough to ski in Antarctica, not last season, but the season before that. And a lot of people don't know that you can ski there. There are no resorts. There are no lifts. It's all backcountry skiing. But it is an option if you want to go. I went with a company called Aurora Expeditions, and we got to ski for 4 days there, which was incredible. We skied next to penguins. We skied on a volcano. We had powder there. It was really incredible. My next dream is to ski on all of the continents, since I already got the hardest one. So I still have to ski on Africa and somewhere probably in New Zealand, and then I'll have all 7, which is great. And that's just a fun, I mean, I'm still looking into it, but I think there's a resort about an hour away from Marrakesh that you can ski at. And I looked into it. Lift tickets are $10 a day. Let's talk about cost savings.
Listen, budget friendly.
Right,
indeed.
budget friendly. I don't know how much the ski rentals are there. I usually travel with my own skis, but I'm not quite sure it would be worth it. But $10 a day, you can't beat for a lift ticket an hour away from Marrakesh, right?
No, that sounds great. And you get to go to Marrakesh.
Right.
Also
Exactly.
awesome.
Right. So that's my next big goal. But that's my favorite place I've ever skied is Antarctica. And, you know, Switzerland is beautiful. The French Alps are beautiful. It's amazing. But my favorite place to ski, of course, is at home because we have some of the most amazing powder and terrain. And I'm obviously quite biased, but I'm quite lucky to live where I do.
If you're ready to hit the slopes, but you want to save a few bucks doing it, then be sure to catch our next episode. Melissa shares her top money-saving hacks for skiing on a budget. Melissa McGibbon, thank you for joining us. And thank you to our listeners for being with us. If you're planning a trip, be sure to connect with a AAA travel advisor. Check out AAA.com/travel or visit your local branch. This podcast is a production of Auto Club Enterprises. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and leave us a review. I'm Angie Orth. Thank you for traveling with AAA.